So, today we start a new tier list with Japan. This one might arrive a bit too late since most players are probably done with the grind now, but since this whole Hori removal gave a lot of exposure to the Japanese tech tree, I thought it would be a good idea to see what everyone thinks of the Japanese tanks. Since it's the first one for this nation, a small reminder as to how I classify the vehicles. I do it based on my experience, based on their stats obviously, based on their performance when stock and aced, based on their BR placement, the type of foe they face, etc. This tier list holds no universal truth. Consider it more like friendly advice. With that out of the way, let's start with rank 1. The very first tank in our list today is technically not something you'll play right away with, for it was removed and can only be unlocked when reaching rank 2. However, we'll still talk about it since, well, after all it remains a rank 1 vehicle. The Hago is for me a C tier tank. Good mobility, fast reload of 4 seconds, good gun depression, and a low speed stabilizer. The weakness of this tank is the fact that it only fires an APHE shell with very low penetration. You also only have 3 crew members in your vehicle and no armor whatsoever. In the end, not the worst reserve vehicle, but definitely not one of the best. Next up we have the Kenny. This one will immediately go in B tier. The Kenny is the Japanese equivalent of an M22 or a BT5, but slightly worse. The goal of this tank is to flank. Your APHE has slightly better penetration, but it can still bounce against heavier targets frontally. As you can expect from a light tank, it's very fast, with a top speed of 50 km an hour. Overall, a good light tank if you don't get shot at. The next light tank on this line is the Kami. This one is pretty much the Kenny, but worse. The main issue on this one is how wide it is. When you go around the corner, the enemies will have ample time to shoot at the side of your frontal armor before you can even see them. This tank has slightly better penetration and an additional crew member, but the trade-off is not worth it in my opinion. As a result, it will sit in D tier. It's also amphibious if you're masochist enough to try that. Moving on to the medium tank line. The first one is the Aigoko. This one is a straight D tier as well. This tank, compared to the previous ones we mentioned earlier, can shoot heat shells with a decent amount of penetration. However, they are very low velocity, making aiming at long distance fairly difficult. The mobility is also very mediocre, if not very bad. This tank is slow, ugly, and has no armor. A vehicle to skip if you can. The next one, on the other hand, is pretty decent, the Chiha. You keep the low velocity heat shell, but this time on a much more mobile chassis. The Chiha mobility is on par with most light tanks at your BR, and your fast reload is enough to take down any threat to you as well. This one will sit in B, a good medium which performs well at this BR. The last medium tank of this list is the Hoai. This one is amazing. You keep all the good stuff from the Chiha, like the heat shell or the mobility, but this time your armor is also quite effective. This one uses the chassis of a Chihei, which is a rank 2 vehicle, and against low caliber shells it makes you quite tanky. There are, however, a few considerations to take into account. Your gun is bigger, so that means longer reload time, and when stock you start with a low penetration APHE shell, with lots of TNT in it, but still, probably one of the best vehicles at 2.0, and for that it will sit in A tier. Now let's talk tank destroyers. The first one is pretty famous, the mighty Horo. A B tier tank destroyer which uses a HE shell capable enough to nuke anything it comes across. The mobility is good, the shell is good, and the gun depression is surprisingly high for a howitzer like this, at -10 degrees. The weaknesses of this vehicle are pretty obvious though. Crew exposed, long reload, and no turret. A good tank destroyer you can even bring at higher BR for the memes if you want. The following one is the Rogo Experimental. This is also a pretty good tank destroyer that I've decided to put in A tier for one very specific reason. This tank fires a very powerful sap shell, with 1.4 kilograms of TNT in it. If you pen something, they'll die. You also have a lot of crew members in this tank, which makes one-shotting you very difficult. The main weaknesses of this vehicle is that your crew is once again exposed, and this time your mobility took quite a big hit. You aren't very fast, so positioning is very important when playing this vehicle. I would recommend sniping if possible to preserve it. Last but not least, on this line is the Honi 2. This one is a Horo but better. They are both very similar, but for me what makes this tank destroyer A tier compared to the Horo is the fact that its optics are better, the shell velocity is higher, which makes aiming easier, and that you have a faster reload time at the cost of slightly less penetration. That last one is completely irrelevant since you can one-shot anything at your BR anyway. A very good tank destroyer that you can pair with a Hoi for a very explosive lineup. Finally, we reach the SPA line with the Type 94. This one is better at shooting tanks than planes, but I still wouldn't try it if I were you. It will sit in C tier since it can deal with both planes and tanks, but the survivability of this vehicle is, as you can expect, non-existent. Your main strength is your speed, and really that's it. The following one is pretty much the same, but instead of being a milk truck, it's a tank, so you have slightly better survivability at the cost of a lower top speed. It's still the same 20mm cannon, still the same ammo, still only 3 crew members. Use it only because you have no other alternatives, but since it can survive a bit longer, this one will sit in B. And also because, once again, you don't have alternatives anyway. And that's it for rank 1. As you can see, we have a good mix of decent vehicles and pretty bad ones. Overall, I think it could be much worse, but thankfully the following ranks will bring a lot of potent toys to play with. Anyway, I hope this was useful to you. Let me know if you agree or disagree with this ranking, and with that said, I'll see you in the next one.